Welcome to Slice, Property Made Possible. We're a platform on a mission to reduce barriers to home ownership. This podcast is a safe space for our community to learn together and build the confidence required to start on their property journey. When you're ready to start, head along to slicetobuy.com and sign up for your free dashboard. Thank you so much for joining us. We've got another episode of Slice Your Property podcast, and today we are joined by Samuel Chen. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, Amy, for inviting. And I'm very happy to be here to share my story.
Yeah, I can't wait. I've searched high and low to find someone who fits the demands of our audience, because we did put it to our audience and ask you guys actually, what stories do you want to hear about? Who do you want to hear from? And we've had people like Sam Stubbs come through as a result of that. And now we've got someone that has actually bought a property by themselves. And believe it or not, it was pretty hard to find Sam. So thanks for joining us today. I think there's this misconception that the norm is to actually buy as an individual, but the majority, and I'm saying, over 90% of people actually purchase with others, whether that's a partner, a family member, or a friend. So congratulations on making up, part of that anomaly.
I mean, I think it's definitely harder than you think before that you proceed to the purchase stage. But I guess there's some ways that you can get your mindset right and just get onto the market as quickly as possible. Yeah. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that first home and what that journey's looked like for you.
Right. I guess because obviously, Asian. So one of the things for us is to have the certainty and stability. And so it's a very important thing for us to find our own home. And it's always on my agenda. But I guess thinking of buying something, then I would want to know whether I want something new or I want something maybe a previous home
existing,
and then bought it over. In that sense, I felt like with a new home, it's pretty much everything's brand new. I don't really have to do extra works. And me personally, I have to decide whether I want a apartment or a townhouse or something. And I'm not really good with gardening, and so obviously,
I don't actually want the Kiwi dream of the backyard. I'm actually good without it. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. And so I guess just you need to make a pick of what type of property that you're looking for.
Yeah, and I love that you've kind of highlighted that, because I was like, assumedly, if you are going in by yourself, you have to kind of focus your efforts and think realistically about what it is that you can afford to buy as well, and that might be a particular type of property as opposed to
exactly, and also in terms of the type of the property, and then based on that you would be able to decide and say, okay, what kind of financial arrangement or deposit I need to save.
So did you look actually first at the property and then work out the numbers?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I basically look at what I want and then I work out the numbers around it, because you won't have just one goal instead of several different things and targeting at the same time.
Yeah.
So for me, I think that is more logical and easily to navigate through.
Yeah.
And then also, I guess with my background, I work in banking at the time when I was doing the purchase. And so basically, I know more about the procedures and what the banks are looking for and some of the certain requirements in terms of, like, say, if you're buying an apartment, then the square meters and all the conditions that they may potentially put into place. And if you're buying a house, then obviously that requirement may be not as tight as the apartment. And so it depends on what you're buying.
Yeah, so did you have a bit of a view around what those requirements looked like before kind of going on that purchasing journey?
Yeah, so basically I did a little bit like shop around and just went to different open homes, or if they have a demonstration place, and then I would just go in and have a look and have a chat with the people as well. Because I know basically in the property markets, when they have a demonstration room, that showroom, they basically give you a lot of information for you individual. You are the buyer, so you're entitled to ask all sort of questions. And you can ask, say, obviously this is my financial condition. I want something under what budget? And then if there anything fit, and do you have Kiwi Bill, and do you have any other packages supporting first home buyer?
Yeah.
And just asking all those tough questions, and you may feel like, oh, maybe other people not asking it, but hey, everyone's asking it, and just why not?
Yeah, so actually just feeling confident to go, hey, this is what my budget might be, or I'm looking for something like this. What do you have on offer that I might be able to make work?
Exactly.
Did you have a base understanding of what your deposit might look like before you had those discussions?
Yeah, so I also did some research online, and so basically I understand there's this first home buyer package offered by the Kaigora, and also
Coownership, was it?
Kangor,
Yeah.
And also, I guess like at that time with the banks that they do have the startup home loan, and with certain banks, and so like they require less deposit and basically a low equity kind of a loan.
Yeah.
And they do have some restrictions in terms of your income. But I think this is the tricky or catchy part. So if your income is low enough and you're able to get onto those loans, but however,
You often won't have the deposit.
yeah, because
accompany
like
that,
otherwise you
yeah.
might not be able to servicing
Yeah, so
the loan.
So I guess for some of the audience's understanding, there is different low deposit options, and they generally come with a criteria, which means you have to earn below a certain amount. So Kāinga Ora actually lifted that amount recently to do their first home partner scheme, but that scheme's now on hold because once they lifted the income, a whole lot of people were then able to go through. So you've got to look at those criteria that are available to you. How did that deposit journey look for you as well, actually saving that? Did you know that you were going to go for a house and so you started putting money into KiwiSaver, or what did you do to get that deposit together?
I guess for me, I like travel, so I spend a lot of money. And so I don't really particularly saving money for that, but I mainly use the KiwiSaver, the banking package, or from the employment deductions. But when I'm able, I would put a little bit more towards it.
Yeah.
And also in terms of the contribution, if I can contribute more, say like your normal contribution is 3% and the employer contributes 3%, and then you can actually put a little bit more towards it.
Yeah, so
And
go to 6% or something like that.
yeah, because that's only 3%. That it's quite marginal considering that your monthly or fortnightly payments. So
Yeah.
you'd rather to put in a little bit more, and obviously the longer term that you have, and then savings seems a lot richer. And also, say with the KiwiSaver, basically you have to save there at least 3 years before you can withdraw.
Yeah.
So just definitely put it in a little bit earlier, and that helps as well.
Yeah, there can be some circumstances where I think you can get around that, but for the most part, there are those requirements around when you can actually use that KiwiSaver as well. And you always have to leave 1,000 in your KiwiSaver.
Yes.
Which is a bit annoying when you just want every
Every
absolute penny. But yeah, it's all part of the game. So do you mind sharing actually how much you put towards your deposit?
Oh, I pretty much just saved the minimum.
Yeah.
Just the minimum. And I didn't really have anything more.
Yeah.
And I just put everything towards that.
And so is that 10% then?
Yeah, 10%.
Yeah. So good to know, because I feel there's so many people out there that will be listening thinking, how did you buy by yourself? But it wasn't with the 20% deposit, so it is that 10% option. So there might be those options for those individuals out there to actually explore. And there is also the co-ownership angle, or going in with schemes like Kāinga Ora when they did have that available.
Yep.
NZ Housing Foundation, You Own. There's actually quite a few schemes there that can allow you to use a 10% deposit.
Yep.
And then the property that you did purchase, do you want to tell us a little bit more about that and where it is?
Yeah, sure. I guess most of the people, they wanted to buy something is already there. And then that's another thing. Because if you're thinking about the projects, once it's almost finished and the developer, they already had all the money and everything they had put it in, and then it's become available right away, then, obviously they will charge you more. And so for me, I went for the off-plan option. So it is a little bit like a riskier in considering if you buy something existing. Put this way, it's because you have to do your due diligence and do your work and to understand who's your developer, how many projects they have been delivered, and what's the quality of it. So basically, you wanted to do some research about them online, asking friends, and you see who's available.
And you want to get a lawyer to support with that as well, which we do at Slice, because the challenge is, if you don't know what you're looking at from a developer agreement, they can be pretty tricky agreements. You can find that developer agreements have sunset clauses, and then they can just extend and extend and extend and not deliver on a project for a long period of time. Meanwhile, you're stuck with a mortgage and you're having to pay for rent and a mortgage or whatever it might be. You can't rent that property out because it's not done yet. So you've got to think about, I guess some of the fine print in those developer agreements. And we encourage caution at Slice and working with our lawyers around that. But if you do that due diligence, or once you do that due diligence, as you say, you can get a better deal potentially because they are not selling for as much as a completed build.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess in terms of the due diligence, because off-plan, they normally have a longer due diligence than the normal contract. And so bear in mind with that. And then some of the projects, when you buy the off-plan, they're already ongoing for a little bit. It doesn't have to be the completely new, haven't even started. So in that terms, that basically your sunset clause wouldn't be that long if you look at that way. But do have a chat with them about your expectation, and also see in their past projects whether they have delivered on time, because normally you would consider if they can deliver within like 2 to 3 months time, then that's fine, even though their expected date is like that. Because my one is actually settled, I think 2 or 3 months later than the expected date.
Yeah.
But obviously that there was cyclones along the journey and in that time range.
And still it's with, 2 to 3 months it might be manageable, but that can continue to kind of keep moving if you haven't done that due diligence.
Yeah.
And where did you buy your new build as well?
So I bought it in Onehunga. Yeah. And so it's the new central Auckland area, and which is quite nice because there's a couple of new projects going on at the moment. Because my one's been delivered as the Manaki apartments. Yeah. And then there's this Onehunga Mall Club, I think. It's just finished. And then there's something new townhouse properties that have been built over there as well. So
So they're all it's a growing.
Yeah, it's a definitely growing area. I guess people, when buying properties and stuff, they would consider, where I'm located, whether it's a future urban or whatever. I mean, I'm not really good with those things. But if you are interested, and you can look into that, because obviously that basically give you an idea about what this place in the future would look like.
Do you mean medium density housing, urban location?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see that if you go to the checklist for our due diligence when looking at a property, there's a website link that takes you out, and you can get onto the council maps and actually see what planned developments are around, so that you can use that to influence your expectations on what that area is going to look like and how housing might perform.
Yeah.
Do you mind sharing how much that property ended up costing off the plans?
I think with my elf plan, I think it's $495K.
Yeah.
Under the Kiwi build and its elf plan as well. Yep.
Yeah, great. And then from that, you mentioned Kāinga Order as well. First partner, was that because that's still available to buyers at the moment, where if you're purchasing your first home, you might be eligible for up to $10,000. So did you get a portion of that as well?
Yes, I did get a portion of that. So this is another thing for you to consider, for everyone to consider as well. So obviously, if you buy something new, and then for every year that you have was KiwiSaver or something, I can't remember what was that, and they give you $2,000 and up to $10K for 5 years long. But if you're buying a off plan, which means the date that you sign the contract, you want the money to be into the trust account, and that is the date they're looking into. So for me, even though my apartment been delivered last November, and that gives me enough time, which is 5 years, I kind of should be entitled for $10K.
Yeah.
But because I put my deposit and everything towards it earlier than that date, and that was on my date to sign the contract and transfer the money, and so basically that was 4 years long, so I got $8,000 from there.
Okay. Yeah. So potentially what's in the contract could squeeze a little bit extra out of that scheme if available as well. But thinking about that, if the property was $495,000, you put down a 10% deposit, it's $49,500. You got $8,000 back, $41,500 that you had to come up with in your KiwiSaver and through your savings. So whilst not nothing. It's a substantial amount to save. It still provides a great amount of hope for people, I think, because people do think, okay, I have to buy, the average houses are back up at 1.2 million in Auckland now. So people are thinking, I have to buy a $1 million house. And that is, it circles back to what you were talking about at the beginning around setting those expectations and actually working out what's your stepping stone, like what's affordable for you.
Yep.
But people do tend to think, I need 100,000 or I need 200,000. And actually you might be able to get in by yourself with as little as 41,500. You might be able to buy with someone else and get in with as little as 20,000.
Look, say a lot of people, especially young people, they want to jump onto the property markets now. And to be honest, thinking about this, it's actually a good time to jump onto the market.
It's a great time.
Yeah, because the market value is relatively low. And then, yes, the interest rates are high at the moment.
But not as high as they have been. And back in the day, they were 19%. Granted, the difference between what, people were earning and the price of the house was much closer.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but over a long journey period of time, that the interest rate is gonna fluctuate eventually, and so it's gonna be even out. And you have the high years, you have the low years. But considering the property that you buy now, then obviously when I bought it was for 95K, and then at the moment, if you look at the commercial, how it's been sold, it's actually a lot more. I think 1-bedroom apartment at the moment in my area, in my building actually, I think it's about 650.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's actually substantial
amount that could go towards the mortgage.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think that's the other thing that people were saying, but rent's actually much cheaper. Why would I go and buy a house? And they were saying this about a year ago. And I was watching on, laughing like a little troll, reading on my internet page and just thinking, these guys are in for a world of hurt, because of course it's a lagging factor. Yes, interest rates go up, then they impact landlords and mortgage holders, but landlords inevitably pass that on, and they can do so once a year. So that's why we're seeing, some rents across New Zealand have gone up $600, like astronomical amounts. It's not funny, it's actually really terrible, but it just goes to show that if you're chasing a time or saying now's not the right time, it's gonna catch up on you at some point in time. Like if you say it's cheaper to rent now, it might be now, but in a year it won't be, and then the house prices are higher again or whatever it might be. So you've got to actually just do what you can to suit your circumstances, and I think ignore the noise where possible, because the other thing is the great position you've got yourself in now is that as that property increases in value, which yes, it's fluctuated a lot in the last couple of years, but the average over the last 10 years prior to the last two was around 6% in Auckland, then you're going to see that property increase by, what is it? Let's do 6% of 495,000. On average, that could increase by 29,700, about 30 grand. And then the price to buy your property becomes 520, and instead of the 49,500 deposit, you now need 10% of 525 or whatever it is. 520. So that's what people need to wrap their heads around, is that when you wait and you think, I'm going to save more to get in a better house or in a better property, you're actually not moving with the market, and that can mean that that property continues to run away on you, because the values of property outperform inflation over time, but your income doesn't necessarily grow at that same rate. No. So you're not making enough generally to keep up with the moving property market, which is why actually using a low deposit option, getting in as soon as you can, and then having that money that's in the property grow, and then moving from that property to property B, or your bigger next investment or a second investment, is the best thing people can think about doing.
Definitely, Amy. I think that is absolutely correct, because you don't really want to buy your ideal home in your first home, because it's going to take ages to do.
I mean, you want to,
yeah,
but
yeah. I mean, obviously everyone wants to, but realistically, the hardest part is to get your foot in the door, because before you jump onto it, you don't even know where to start, and then too many loose ends you're trying to tie it up. And so I guess just trying to narrow things down a little bit and simplifying some of the thoughts and don't overthinking it and just get onto it and then you can move on to the next one. And your life is so long and then everything could happen and you could win a lotto and another day and then you'll be able to
Buy that dream home right away.
exactly. So you don't really have to stuck with this one property and then with no bill or Kiwi bill do be careful in terms of the timing, in terms of if you want to sell it later, because there's a clause about it as well.
Yeah. So as to actually how quickly you can on-sell the property.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's also different lending on new builds as well. So obviously that's why it can be easier to get lower deposit because the government and the banks are kind of trying to encourage additional supply and market.
Yeah.
So you can get lower
Yeah.
lower LVR lending on a new
Yeah.
build as opposed to
Definitely.
existing.
And in terms of your financing options, and I guess most of the people, and traditionally, and maybe 80-90% of the people, they wanted to go from the banks. Yes, the banks are very, very secure. And so I guess that's good options, but not necessarily have to be just asking one bank and maybe just asking around because it could be quite different in terms of how much they can lend you. And that could be quite substantial as well. And if people still can't get over the line with the banks, and do check with the brokers, and because sometimes they do have other options around it.
That's what we do recommend. Obviously, I used to work in banking, and banks, are secure, but I think you can still work with them by going via a broker, and our brokers do actually have a view of what those different interest rates are, what those different products are, and they see rates that we don't see as the average customer. They see what's coming in market as well because they'll know that something's about to be released on Monday or something like that, and that's not necessarily always publicly released. So it's actually a great option to work with a broker from an interest rate perspective, but also from what product suits my circumstances. Potentially, as you said, you can get more lending from Bank A than Bank B, and that helps you into that next property that you think is a better investment or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
What else do you have advice for first home buyers? Obviously, we've rested on that opportunity of finding the options available to you, if that is low deposit, and getting on the ladder sooner and thinking about that as a stepping stone as opposed to a dream home. But what about the general buying process and things, your experience with that?
I guess for me, it's relatively simple because I'm quite focused in terms of what I want. And when I saw it, and then I just quickly jump onto it. So I guess the developer did give me like a week-ish for the due diligence, but I just came back quite quickly on that one and just signed the contract and then it was like, oh yeah, it's done. But make sure that you actually do your work and do the readings and do have a chat with friends. It's a really just about mindset and whether this is something you like, and if this is something you like, put it down to the paper quite quickly because, for me, I basically walk into the showroom and ask them, hey, do you have Kiwi Bill? This is my budget. If they say yes, then I will have a look. But if they say no, then I will just walk out the room. So basically, it's simple as that because I can't really afford anything else. So it's just simplifying the process, and sometimes you don't really have to wait for the ballot and that kind of thing, because that's definitely it's a way to getting it for the Kiwi Bill, but not necessarily the way. And normally the developer, they would be able to. If you ask them, most of the time they would tell you that they would have some Kiwi Bill within that complex.
Within that range, yeah. I think there's a few key things that I took out of that. 1 and probably 3 being closely attached, but being focused. So actually just setting your goal, whatever that might be. If it is, this is our budget. I actually think starting with budget is the easiest place to start. So actually just going, I have this much in terms of deposit. This is my income. And then working back from there to go, okay, well, I can probably afford a house worth 500k or whatever it might be, and then looking at those options that are available to you, whether that's an apartment, a townhouse, a Kiwi build, or an existing home if you're able to do that. But then mindset is another piece that you brought up, and I think that's really important. Yes, from it actually allowing yourself to focus in and just go, I'm going to see this as an investment. I feel like you were leaning into that, but also just mindset in general and thinking, hey, well, I have this amount of money, it might be possible, and being open to exploring the opportunity rather than just going, oh, a lot of people would have 40 grand. A lot of people would have 20 grand and they'll just think, no, I can't buy a home. And that's actually not true. It's that you might not be able to buy the $1.2 million home that you want, or you might not be able to live in Ponsonby or Westmere, or whatever it is, wherever you are across New Zealand. But I think, there's a couple of really key things that I've taken away from you today. One being that, focusing in and just narrowing the way that you're looking. It's the mindset around that and actually just having your focus narrowed. So going, if you know this is what I've got as a deposit, this is what my income is, and then you play around with our calculator on slicetobuy.com, you can work out quite quickly, yes, I can afford these weekly repayments or not. This is the amount of deposit that I have. Therefore, this is potentially the type of property or the range I could buy, 500k, whatever it might be. And also, just having realistic expectations, I think, and thinking not, I'm just going to keep saving, and eventually I'm going to have $2 million and be able to buy the house that I want. You might, if you're a very good worker and a good earner, but 9 times out of 10, the market will move without you. And so the deposit that you'll need for $2 million in 10 years will be 6% times 10 across that 10-year period. I'm not going to do those numbers today. It's a Saturday, but it's going to be monumentally different to what's required for a $2 million deposit today. So if you're thinking, oh, once we, in 5 years we can save another 100 grand, by that point, you will need that 100 grand to be worth 500 grand to buy the same property that you were looking at. So just thinking realistically about how you can get in and move with the market, I think is one of the biggest tips in any episode that we've recorded to date. And it's so great and important to hear about your experience with that, because I think people do think, and even myself, I probably felt it was out of reach. I don't know if they were doing the same low deposits, because I had around the same amount as you when I bought my first property, and I was in the bank, and I'm not sure they were doing the same amount of low deposits, or I didn't know. I ended up getting my mum to go guarantor. So, it was a low deposit. I went with a 10% structure or just above. So similar, but I did it through co-ownership.
Yeah.
And that really is, if you're buying by yourself, even then, lots of people aren't doing that. It was pretty hard to find someone. And maybe I could have tried harder, but honestly, a lot of people were asking to hear from someone that had bought by themselves without a partner, without a parent, without a lot of those use cases that we see. And it's refreshing to hear about how you've done it. So
I guess along the journey that you find around you, you always have friends and who's in banking and who's a lawyer, who's maybe friends is a lawyer. Just ask them, and then they would be able to. It is
kind of that community. I guess that's the thing. You and I have both had banking experience, so you actually know what might be possible. But if you don't know, listen to this podcast, check out the platform, and find people and surround yourself with people that are trying to better their wealth journey.
Yeah, definitely. Once you bought it, and you would find, oh, I'm comfortable, I have my own place. And also in terms of thinking, oh, I have a huge loan I have to pay off, but thinking of this is a huge asset you have achieved, it's a milestone kind of thing.
Absolutely. And when you think about, you spoke earlier about being Asian and the importance of home ownership to you, as I guess it is that financial stability piece, right?
Yeah.
I'm an advocate for that as well. What does being a homeowner mean to you now that you've managed to achieve that? It's a milestone, it's financial security.
And I guess it gives me more of a sense of belongings. I literally know that I can just stay there forever. I don't have to be worried about a couple months later and the landlord told me that their parents they're visiting and then I have to go somewhere. It happened to me once, and I was renting this place and then moved in just after a month. Because before I moved in, they were saying, oh, we're expecting someone who can stay for a long time. I was like, I'm quite, stable.
Want to be settled,
and then it was just, that's great. And then, a month later, I've been told, oh, I'm really sorry, my parents are visiting and you have to leave, that kind of thing. They also reflect on, say, my travel lately, because I was on a cruise. The reason I'm doing so is because, obviously, I wanted to be in the place I can unpack And so I don't really have to think about next day I have to
Moving
pack
every
again
time.
and carry all my things and going to the next stop. So, that sense of belongings is really something make you to feel like, oh, this is home. And also
Yeah.
it's a place that you can decorate and, in terms of your personality, in terms of your
Your
maybe because
style and
yeah,
yeah.
your style because you have this job and then you have this persona or everything that expectation from people, but in your own home, this is your own space and it's safe and just do that,
Yeah.
like do whatever you wanted to do. Yeah, for later on purpose, like what you mentioned a little bit. Yes, it is an investment. And then you can think of, okay, now I have a one bedroom, then you wanted to see, oh, do you want to leveraging in the future if you have a partner, get married, have kids or something that you want to grow, and then you can sell this and offset the new one. You can arrange that. Or if you're being single, who knows? And then you may able to leveraging this and buying a new investment property as well. So it's all different kind of arrangement you can think of in the
Yeah.
future. Not necessarily now, but it's just like
Opens up your
there's
possibilities.
options.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's a lot easier.
On that note, yeah, you obviously see property opens up opportunities for you in
Yep.
your future, whether or not you're single, whether or not you're in a relationship, whatever the future may hold for you or others in your situation. What other things do you think about in your wealth journey? Because obviously you work at the bank and that sort of thing too. Do you get involved in shares? Are you focused on growing your income? What's your view on kind of other assets as part of your wealth journey?
Once you have your own home, that you become a little bit conservative in terms of, oh, what investment I can put it in. But I'm always, because I'm in banking, I was in banking, so I'm always curious in terms of what is the options, what's the investment products over there. I would have a look, but I would be quite careful in terms of choosing something I wanted to invest it in. Mainly at the moment, it's just Kiwi Saver, so I don't really have anything else going on. I had cryptocurrency for a short period of time,
Interesting.
but it does fluctuate quite a bit. And then, so you do have to have a threshold in terms of what you can afford.
Yeah.
For instance, use a common, scene. People would like to have a little bit fun and going to the casinos, gambling a little bit. I would put the $20 there, and if I win, I win some. If I lose the $20 only.
Yeah.
And once you win something, and then you take the $20 off, and then use your winning money to keep playing,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that kind of mindset. So you don't go all out and just to beat on it.
Yeah.
And don't forget buying a lotto ticket and you
Yeah.
might win something. Who
That's
knows?
always an option. One can hope.
Yeah, yeah.
I had a money spider climb on me yesterday and
Yeah.
I'm waiting for my winnings. I'm weirdly superstitious, but it's happened to me a couple of times
Yeah.
and it's normally from places where money is expected, but still, well, not always. I got quite a bit of tax back one year when a money spider went on me. So find a money spider, put it on you, buy a lotto ticket. That's another option. But it's interesting to hear because a lot of people do advocate for investing in shares or, crypto, or there's lots of different options out there. But obviously for you, property was a big draw card and that being that you want the financial stability, the security that comes with actually owning the underlying asset as well.
Yeah, because in terms of like thinking investment and stuff, a lot of people they were thinking, oh, it's the opportunity and jump in and it's quick money. But if you're looking at the property from the historical point of view, it's always grow. And at certain stage, it may slow down, it may fluctuate a little bit, but it's definitely not going to be as fluctuate as like cryptocurrencies or some of even sharesies or the shares you buy or anything. So as long as you have this asset on hand at any point in time, that when the market is more stable, that you can actually sell it. But once you sell it, considering it's the cash value, it become quite liquid. And then that comes with the inflation consideration and everything else. Look at it this way. And also, if you do have investment properties, that it's a fixed income generator, and that goes with the inflation, because once the inflation goes up or the interest rate goes up, that you raise your rent as well. So thinking this way.
Yeah, just thinking actually, yeah, because I think that's one interesting thing I always think about, but comparing shares or other investment portfolios to property is that you might not have money to put into those assets, but you can borrow from the bank. You can borrow from the bank and put that money towards property. Or you can take the money that you would have spent on rent for the year, 10 grand or whatever it is, and put that into property. So you're actually getting money that you didn't have to put into the investment, which is really different when it comes to investing in shares, where you need to have that money on hand as opposed to use the bank's money, use your KiwiSaver, use the money that would have gone to rent. All of those kind of funds that you can pull together for property, you don't have access to for shares.
Yeah. And we always say, because this is not financial advisory or anything, basically what we're saying is just don't use a debt service the debt. I know that some people, they either use the high leveraging investment kind of thing, and then they borrow the money from the bank as well. And you can lose it all. But like with the properties, at least there's something sitting on it. And then, okay, let's imagine the worst scenario. What could happen is you can't service the loan. It goes into the mortgagee sale, but like you don't end up with the loan, right? So
yeah. So you don't end up with the same downside risk.
Exactly.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, the last question for you today, Sam, is if you're reasonably priced, efficiently purchased, amazingly bought as a single homeowner, first home, had a doorbell, and that doorbell played a theme song, what would it play?
I don't know. I'm a Christmas person. The first thing coming to my mind is Jingle Bell.
I love it. I love Christmas as well. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining our community. Buying property isn't easy, but listening in will get you one step closer on your journey. Please leave an Apple or Spotify review and provide feedback so we can improve your experience. Join our Facebook group, A Safe Space to Learn Together, or follow us on Instagram at Slice2Buy. If you have any questions or topics you would like us to touch on, you can email us at hello@slice2buy.com. A quick reminder, Slice the podcast does not provide personalised investment advice. We are not acting as financial advisors or taking into account your circumstances. To get personalised advice, join us at slice2buy.com and engage with our partners who can act as your financial advisor or lawyer and support you with your specific needs.